Yeah, boom, boom, chocolate. How's everybody doing? How are you doing this fine Monday, 15th of December? Getting close to the day. How are you keeping? Big thank you and hello to all of you joining me over on Rumble, the YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and also D Live in the house. Apologies for the little mint, carrying a little bit of a grovelly chest, as you know, over the winter of the winter. How's everybody? How's your weekend, everybody? Big hello to Finola. Big hello to Sean Green, Siobhan McNean. Good to see you, Siobhan. Sheepdog also in the house. Blinky doing moderation. Emmanuel was in the house, number one on the roll call. Thanks for jumping in and saying hello, Emmanuel. Good to have you back. And who else have we also got? Nikki's also in the house. And Mons DK. Just name but a few. Martin just joining us as well. Just Drury, I feel down. Pick yourself up, Martin. Pick yourself up. 2025 was 20 years long. Everything. I'll tell you that for me, these last couple of days, the hours, tearing through the days. It seems to be going exponentially quick for me. Lots happening over the weekend. Lots going on every day. I mean, how do you put a stream of consciousness together and try and speak? And I have 2025 fatigue. Yeah, all the buzzwords being kicked out by the chat there tonight. Good to have you. Thanks for that. The spirits, keep the spirits high though, folks. Who else have we got over on Rumble? Let me just check in you. Who have we got over there on Rumble? No messages there so far. We'll stick with the YouTubers. Where did I want to begin? Oh, hence tonight's title, The Black Box. Some interesting stuff coming out from the FDA over in the United States. The rumblings and the murmurations of the admission of the safe and effective remedy that they tried to to push on us all. But the drip feeding of truth is slowly come out. I do want to touch on an article by Kevin McKiernan, just to inform you. It has all the necessary sauce on what is actually primarily focusing on contamination as being the focus point in Kevin's article. But I think it's important for us to share that article. Jerry Waters over on YouTube brought it to my attention earlier on. I've been laid up all day today. Pulled a bit of a knee strain yesterday, so kind of sat down and put a few bits and pieces together. But again, no video montage. Still haven't resolved the issues. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping while it's on my mind. I think we'll revert back to the 8 o'clock starts from next week's broadcast next Monday. I'm sure I'll be popping out doing a few different streams during the week on the Christmas break and touching in during the days and just keep them busy and just try to resolve a few issues and put a stream in for next year's show. We will begin in earnest, or I will begin in earnest to have a few people into the studio and make it a little bit of more of a podcast. But like I said, just for these couple of weeks leading up, just to touch in base and just kind of get back into the swing again. Where's the live on Rumble? Can it see? It's up on the screen there if you're on Gran Torino, Ireland, over on Rumble. And I kind of also on the housekeeping front, want to kind of encourage you, if you're watching this broadcast on YouTube, please consider following us over on Rumble and bring the numbers up over there, because I do intend, with the way things are going forward, to stream from the Rumble studio, because its servers are based in the UK, I believe. I think the YouTube can be taken down at any time, so I wouldn't be overly relying on it as well. And I do like the up and coming alternative media platforms as well. So I think multi-streaming, as I've said during the last bout of broadcast before I took the nigh on year sabbatical. Just before the YouTube account was reinstated, there was the intention of coming back as well. Hence the creation of the studio for bringing guests in and not just guests, loads of different other things, So there's a whole new year to roll into, but there's a lot going on. I do honestly think 2026, and I always say it every year, but 26, I think the stakes are going to be raised even higher. I have one or two articles in relation to the promotion or the instatement now of the Lieutenant General De Rosa as head of the Defence Forces, and the increasing powers that this new position they're giving him. Not only going to touch on that article. I also had another article in relation to the fisheries debate raging strong over the weekend. Minister Dooley has got his Well, he didn't. Don't think he had any sort of plan to put in place. I think he just went along. So it seems our fisheries are yet again being let down and decimated. I think the fishery allotment in the Irish seas, I think stand at 45% or 45. The tonnage is very slow compared to what Belgium's 450% catch for sole in the fisheries. There are allotted uh, certain percentages of fishing stock that they can take back. And again, Ireland's fishing fleet has been devastated again with its quota being utterly reduced. The clauses that were put in place, can't remember the specific dates, where Ireland would have an opt-out clause that should its quota be reduced by a certain point, whereas its fishing stock, wouldn't be able to maintain the fleet. It has gone deliriously below any maintenance of the shipping fleet. We'll see the fishing vessels that's stranded down. I think it's down off I don't know what coast. Where's that ship um, that's been grounded, that's floating around there? Had a Portuguese crew. It's registered in Spain, and it's an ex-Irish. The boat itself was off the Irish fleet. Having one of the fishermen haven't had to sell up the vessel that's now bouncing around off our coastline there with the crew being helicopter evac'd. So again, another resource being plundered by Europe, and I think with the increase in population in Europe, in the likes of Belgium and France, with their population boom expanding, under the great stewardship of the globalists with their open door policy, I think the ire of most people is now being directed individually on the Merkelism, the 2015 decree by Herr Merkel to allow everybody to come in and open the borders up and begin this insanity. Someone rightly saying it's 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 a what, GT. I'm trying to gather out what is being said, but the pinpointing of on one particular politician, Herr Merkel herself, who is directly responsible for the disaster. One of the main proponents of why we're in this situation as we are. Great to see you again, Jean. Thanks for saying hello. Shawnee Mankis, some late attendees. Again, I'm going to keep it under an hour tonight because I know the 9 o'clock stream doesn't suit everybody, as well as we strip on to the worker man's bedtime in and around 9:30, 9:45. So, like I said, we will return to the 8 o'clock stop. Let me get that for you there, Blinky, and I'll take a link off the site here now. See if I can just pop that up for you there now for those of you. Thanks for jumping in there. Popped it in the chat here now, Blinky. You can post it and share it on. Thank you very much for that. Also, we'll do the kick to Twitch. And again, as the stream develops for around in the new year going forward, we'll have a little bit more organization. I don't know if you caught the stream with Millennial Woes there on Friday. Very nice chat with himself, Colin Robertson, the Millennial Woes. And he's gone through his 12 days of Christmas with a string of interviews. Also caught in with Philip's interview last night with Millennial as well. Great timeline to follow, and great to hear Phil's experience and his timeline through his awakening and the stuff that's going in, just to inform people further afield around the world that touching in with a Millennials audience of the great work that Philip has been doing, and all of us together. It's a movement for us all that have been getting involved. See you over there now. Who have we got there? Mons DK. Guten Abend, my friend. Last one over here, just to check in with the DLive. Possibly very quiet over there, but I'm sure it'll pick back up over time. Let me go back to the. Let me go over to the share screen, and I'll slip. I didn't figure out how to keep the windows on top. Windows 11 doesn't have the always on top feature. This resource hog hungry. I will hopefully consider moving over to Linux, but it's such an upheaval to jump off and then just try and jump in and try and set up with the Linux, which I don't think is comparable to OS. But again, let's keep that in the housekeeping. Let's jump over to the one that on the stream, making comment on the Australian situation. As the thumbnail suggests, you probably wouldn't have seen it on YouTube, but you'll see it on the show afterwards of a meme there with Piers Morgan himself, who breaking down his statistics when he was having to go there at Fuentes and leaving out the exclusion. I know it's getting boring for all right wingers, talking about the lack of understanding of per capita and population percentages in relation to crime statistics. Little gem there. I'm going to jump over. Let me just clear that flag. I'm going to go quickly through the couple of the posts just to highlight a couple of talking points as well. But I will keep it chat orientated on yourself, YouTube and chat. But just to see here, one of the accounts over there started talking about the Justice Minister's deportation flights. Jolly out for the lads, just coming up to Christmas now. 120 Gardaí travelled on a charter flight to bring 52 deportees to Georgia at a cost of almost €190,000. My thinking is here, and I'm sure you'll agree, is to make a big deal of the situation, like bringing in 52. I think we're getting something like between 100 to 300, maybe even up to 400 daily coming in to apply for asylum and stuff. So they're like, it's 52 out, it's 100 in. The numbers don't add up, but it's just like a placement. I mean, of course, we're doing these deportations, and they like I said, they pick out the families to make a big sort of emotional plea and it all, and they look at us, we're tough, and all of this will drag out the individuals, will drag their families and all. But 52 is medium out, is proportional. As I say, it's just for them to be able to say that, like, we have been carrying out deportation flights, but to minimal effect, to nearly zero effect on the influx coming in. So 33,000 up to 40,000 a year on year, small villages just arriving and looking to be housed. In fact, going down and protesting. I don't know if you've seen that. I think it was on Saturday. We had a barrage, and you'll notice all those individuals with the face masks on, chaperoning would be the NGO class that would sort of bring them all together, give them the placards, give them the chance, and then stand out there and steward them outside the Dáil, so that the mainstream could go out and get their shots for the evening broadcasts. I mean, the brass neck coming over and protesting. Give us a house, give us a passport, give us it now. But again, they were promised these. As I said in last week's broadcast, making the correlation between the minister's post and the influx, making it graphically representative that you could see the correlation between that post and then it's the dramatic increase in applications coming here as well. But again, the minister just making a mealy-mouthed attempt to placate the crowds, and I said as to drive a narrative as well. Mandy Gall brought this up as well, and it's been a talk of Ireland's increase in military spending. Our budget, and I have an article on it there. You can see where it's being spent: 1.7 to 1.4 billion that the Irish state intends to spend on its military budget. Mandy pointed out that France and Belgium are pushing back, but of course Ireland are the best boys in the class. When the European Council is asking us to help guarantee a 210 billion euro loan for military support to Ukraine. But I mean, this is on the basis. This is on the basis that I tell you about these frozen assets. The big furore at the moment, and a big splitting point in amongst the political elites over in Europe. It seems Italy, Belgium. Belgium is the host of the funds, with Euroclear being the international financial institution that is responsible. The European Council is putting pressure on Belgium to release these funds or to confiscate. That's essentially what they are doing. These aren't frozen assets; these are confiscating funds, and will have a huge, not even a huge, a devastating impact on the financial reputation of Europe. You're going to see a large flight of money leave when it can no longer be guaranteed that the money that you invest or not the money that you leave in escrow here in any of the European banks can be confiscated at will. So we're going to see a lot of money flight and investor funds fleeing. But Belgium is putting up resistance because it knows its financial reputation will be destroyed. And of course, the Russians will have litigations to bring it through. No matter what the kind of emergency legislation that they bring, that Ursula and the rest of the cronies over there are bringing through, um, running through emergency legislation at the drop of a hat to just kind of quantify the or legitimize, I should say, legitimize their stealing of Russian money, and that's essentially what it is. And you can even confiscation is a too an easier word. Don't do it. The war is lost. The war is well and truly lost in 22, 23. This is just the escalator. Just keep on going because our European elites are desperate, beyond all desperation, to keep this war going. Because the once the if the war was to stop suddenly, and again we're reminded, December the 19th, this coming Friday, is the cutoff point or the deadline for the Banderites, Ukrainian and the rest of them, to either accept the 28 piece plan that Trump administration has put forward, which I don't think the Russians have said it's good for an opening gambit or an opening talking point, but they haven't agreed to any of the talking points on it. But the deadline being that on the 19th, Trump will withdraw all military support, and he says all military support and all intelligence for the Ukrainians, and they're just going to walk away and focus on what's happening down in Venezuela. Even though, as the Russians have just sent down the Russian fleet, some of the Russian fleet down there, and opening up a new front, and also a nuclear sub just being sent down. So Pooty Poot saying to President Trump, "Well, you're interfering on my doorstep, so I'm going to put some assets over across on your doorstep and see how you like that." Again, this kind of thing is part of the escalator, can get out of control. And with all our European leaders and the bots, particularly like on X, don't know if you're seeing as well, all these pro-European bots. And then as I say that, I wonder if it's still there. Billy Kelleher, one of our MEPs over there as well. I think he just must be reading it straight off the bat. He is just so pro-European. We have got to fight the evil Pooty Poos. We're going to take this. We're going to take this money. I think I still have it up here as well. We'll go through this little bit of Twitter feed I have for you here, or on my live Twitter feed. And as I scroll down through, like Mandy also again popping up on this one here. You build 65 houses. This is out in Wicklow. This is not too far away from where I'm based out here, where a whole housing estate without planning permission was just constructed and up and start. These privateers just took it upon themselves to take over land and build this housing estate without planning permission, without any application to join into the sewage system, into the water system. And here you are now. The state says, well done for that, for this illegal estate, where we're going to now designate it an iPass centre, and we're going to give you 5.6 million to cover the costs at the Wicklow iPass centre. Now, I paraphrase, I'm sure it's a little bit more detailed, but in essence, that's what that is. That whole estate, not a single Irish family will be placed in it. All freebie houses and the gimme that's for the gimme gins to go over there and help themselves. Absolutely despicable what's going on. I was looking for big shout out to all of those that attended outside the Mountjoy Jail on Sunday as well, showing support for Enoch Burke, who was incarcerated again over the Christmas period again. Some would say indefinitely or in perpetuity if they would have his way, for contempt of court charges. I think reading an article, the longest period of time that anyone was detained just for contempt of court was in the United States for 14 years, if I read that correctly. So Enoch bringing his case up to the Supreme Court to see if it can be this can be quashed, or if we can have some sort of resolution on the situation. I don't even think his the employer meeting with the Wilson School as well, that it was officially sent it off. All of this is just centering around the judge's pride of him not abiding by the judge's decree, hence him being held in contempt of court. Nothing to do with the actual charges of the pronouns or how this all began. But the reason for the incarceration is for not bending to the judge's will of not attending to his workplace, which he hasn't been formally removed from. Also had his savings confiscated by the state and taken away. Again, to remind you that the process is the punishment. The punishment, the inevitable punishment that you received, is not the punishment. It's being dragged through the process, through the courts in all aspects, whether it's trying to defend your home, to defend your house. I think that was Fergus that was outside there, and I can't remember some of the other names. I seen them. And again, short crowds, as was said down there. There should be thousands down there supporting. But again, if you maintain it, if you build it, they will come. Keep it and keep it regular, lads. Keep going down there and show support. I think Fergus will go down there um, day on day. Again, this is just the feed. I'm looking for Billy Kelleher's post there as well. Wasn't too far away. I'm not going to jump in. I mean, there's a whole host of what's going on. You can see through my feed here what the conversation is primarily centered around what happened over in Australia as well. And again, with the thumbnail, there's too many questions to ask over that situation. It's very convenient that it comes about at this time and why it happens. The fatwas would have been issued for a Christmas campaign by the Islamists and the radicalists every Christmas, as you've saying, how many situations have been thwarted. Um, it was Martin Sellner. I have his. Where does that Martin? Um, Martin Sellner did a little diagram for me there. I'm going to pop it up. Not a little diagram there, but just to show you that, like in the military aspect, as I was talking to a millennial, and I said it's never in the history has an occupying force had its logistics paid for, its marching soldiers paid for by its intended occupiers or those that it intends to occupy, which is what it's doing. So we are effectively paying for our own invasion. Let me bring this one up here from Martin Schellner, or drag it over here to the left. Jump over to the presentation view, but in a military sense, I'm trying to say that the lines of communication are open for these people. This graph here that Martin Sellner points out, Bondi Beach Muslim terror in Australia, an attack on a Christmas market just prevented in Germany. This did not come out of nowhere. How here you can see the exponential growth of Islamic organization in Germany alone in the past decade. And we see that now with the increase in iPass centers. We see that now with more and more applications for Islamic centers and mosques starting to ping up. And just to show you, and part of that conversation, I was telling you, if you join me up with a millennial, I was based in Germany in around 92, 93, 94. And I seen firsthand as well, primarily the influx of Turks that were coming in. And as I said to Millennial, they're effectively brought in by Erdogan and Merkel as well as a voter bloc for the SBU. As all of these new to the parish that are being brought in here will be a voter bloc for the incumbents here to try and remain their power, because they've lost the working class and they will soon begin to lose the middle class, as the middle class is decimated, as its savings are being devoured by the cost of living. And I use the word crisis delicatively when you consider that over a third of the national grid in electricity is being used by AI centers, with no decrease in the permission and the allowance of more data centers that come in, data centers that take up effectively the same water usage as a village here, and again decimating and destroying the water in itself and the local lands in the area. There's no sound with this one here, but just to show you in a representation, a smaller, different representation here of how over the period of time, the amount of centres that pop up, and I'll explain what I mean by the centres themselves. That was quite quick there in 1990, 80, 83 to 1493, as the timeline progresses up into the current year. To you can see, as I call it, the infestation playing out, and that's exactly what it is, because for me, you cannot defeat your enemy if you cannot recognize your enemy. And the enemy is quite simply and clearly Islam in this position, is the political doctrine of Islam, because that is what Islam is fundamentally. It is a political philosophy dressed up as a religious philosophy, as a theology, but it meets all the criteria. And these centers, Islamic centers, the mosques, these are barracks. These are forward emplacements where the imams will dictate to the attendees of how to communicate, what is up next, what they must do, the reinterpretation and from the hadiths and the surahs and from the book itself. I see the conversation online on the internet between the Christian scholars and Islamic scholars is kind of playing out. This the Islamic dilemma is really having an effect. I think I've mentioned this once or twice to you before about the Islamic the dilemma, which is that the book itself, the Quran, automatically tells the adherents that should they doubt anything said here in the book, that they should look to the scriptures. and it's the scriptures that give the Quran its credence. So they're kind of caught in this dilemma that the Gospels are quantify the words of what Muhammad is supposed to be saying, but there's so many contradictions in that that it's easily pulled apart. That this ninth century pagan philosophy was brought out as as a war doctrine for taking over and usurping government. So we must always understand that it is not. It is in fact a political ideology dressed up as a religious ideology and should be treated so. It is a philosophy of conquest and will use any and all means, as it's said in its military doctrine. One of the main tenets being taqiyya. Taqiyya mean you can lie for the benefit of Islam. You can lie to the kafir. You can be friends with the kafir, but not friends of the kafir. Distinct, make that distinction in all time. So they can be quite two-faced because their religion allows them for them to lie to you for the betterment of Islam. We won't go too hard on that. Jump over I'll jump over here now, just because I wanted to touch on immigration and I kind of wanted to touch on our the infestation and talk about that, but then a little bit here just on the new budget, the rearming of Europe, as it's calling us. They're trying to bring about this new super army to push back or to defend Europe against the creeping and the encroachment from the scary Russians. Nothing could be further from the truth. Logistically, I mean, logistically, it does not make sense that Russia would want to push any further than the Dnieper, because it's a huge financial burden to occupy the whole of Europe or to attack Europe, and logistically wouldn't make sense. Part of our budget, I'll go through here. I think it's I am going to touch in with the journal, but there's the website here from the government.ie. I just want to kind of show you some of the itinerary that is a part of that budget. The Minister for Defence, Helen McEntee, she's getting about her portfolio. She's jumping around all the ministerial appointments and all the different pensions she might accrue after her 5-year point. She'll get three separate. She'll get a school teacher's pension, she'll get a minister's pension, and she'll get a sitting TD's pension. Well, pensions to beat the bands. But the minister unveiled a comprehensive plan that sets out the government's record of 1.7 capital investment in defence over the next 5 years, an increase of 600 million or 55% on the previous baseline in an era defined by a rapidly evolving geopolitical tensions. The investments will modernise defence forces capability across all domains, ensure that Ireland continues to meet its national international security responsibilities. But just look at some of the itinerary here that they're looking to focus in. The record multi-million annual investment, raising from 300 million in 2026 to 360 in 29 and to 29 and to 30. Major capability upgrades across land, air, maritime, and cyber domains. Full delivery of military radar program by 2028 with the phased rollout beginning in 26. 19 million accelerated investment in counter UAS systems ahead of Ireland's 26 EU Council presidency. And the Air Corps modernisation, including the Airbus 145 helicopters, 4 of the SOs, and the progression on acquiring 8 super medium helicopters and delivery of new Falcon 6X strategic aircraft. Naval service upgrades. I'm going to focus here on the Army one as well. Now, midlife upgrade of 80 Mohawk Piranha 2 vehicles, that's Armoured Division, and Armoured Fleet replacement, acquisition of RPS drones, and the rollout of software-defined radios. So new capital investment. Again, I wouldn't, as a defence force, I wouldn't be too against it per se, but I wouldn't be deploying or strategically leading them out as peacekeepers. I would be keeping them in-house to do patrols around our fisheries and around our borders and protect our forestries and all that kind of natural resources as well. I wonder how many of them new boats will be patrolling against the super trawlers that are again sweeping through Irish waters and ripping the state off of that income. So in charge of all of this, though, and this bit spending is the new Brigadier General Rossa Mulkey. I'll just give you a quick journal breakdown of himself. and some of the talking points that he has been saying. Brigadier General Rossa Mulliky has been appointed as the new Chief of the Staff of the Defences Forces. Brigadier General Mulliky is the Assistant Chief of Staff and will take over from the current Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Sean Clancy, later this year. Taoiseach Defence Minister Simon Harris nominated Brigadier General Mulliky for the role. Of his recommendation was accepted this morning at Cabinet. Harris said he looks forward to working closely with the Brigadier General Mulliky in the future. My priorities are to continue the transformation of the Defence Forces to ensure that it is fit for purpose organisation to defend the state and meet the challenges we now face going into the future, added Harris. In July 24, the government approved legislation to provide a reform of high-level command and control defence forces. Essentially, they're going to centralise power with the Lieutenant General and increase his powers. So he'll be talking directly with the Foreign Ministry and again the Cabinet, should anything be convened, and he will have ultimate control under the new powers that they're going to elevate into his position. He will have powers of the budget, and he will have powers of deployment. But he will just be part of. He will be a smaller cog in the larger contingency of the European general staff, and he will just give it from the Irish impression. But 1.7 billion, and again, pushing us forward, and the fervent talk to remove the triple lock. They are saying that this is to bring back sovereignty. They're going to use all the buzzwords of giving us control. But again, the main enemy, you cannot have an increased budget if there is nobody to fight against. So they're going to perpetuate the mystery of Russia looking to invade Europe. Statistically and logistically, financially, that just does not make sense. But they need to create an enemy. Otherwise, people will start looking, because when the emergency legislation runs dry, if a halt in the war, if the Russians are able to proceed, capture Odessa, capture the four regions that they want to return on the north, south, eastern side of the Dnieper, and return them back to the motherland, I think that will satiate the bear, and the rest will be, if there is anything left of Ukraine after all of this, because Zelensky is turning down any of the peace proposals, or he's trying to eschew. He's looking for guarantees, trying to get an ascendancy into NATO. And I've seen some of the political talking heads over on TikTok talking about the Russian economy is beginning to fail. It couldn't be Nothing could be further from the truth. The have to remember that the GDP, the percentage of military spending in the Russian budget is 40%. Only 40% of the Russian budget goes towards its military spending and its military capabilities. And look what it's been able to achieve with that spending. To Let me see if I can just get the chat box to fly over here. Look what it's been able to do with that spending. It's utterly embarrassed NATO in itself. It's outproduced, outmanufactured, outfought, outthought in every aspect of the NATO military machine, and has completely exposed it as a defunct paper tiger. With all the protestations now of all the European leaders saying that they're going to put boots on the ground, we're going to try and increase the defence forces to 11.5%. We're going to try and remove the triple lock and try and be part of that brigade, that globalism, to put boots on the ground in Ukraine to fight Russians. Initially, any European contingent will be put back in a rear echelon position, and more Ukrainians will be sent to the front. So all these screaming gobshites that are down there saying we must stand with Ukraine and we must fight this war to the last Ukrainian. We are now creeping up towards 2 million dead, 2 million young men dead, war dead on the Ukrainian side. The Russian deaths, although heavy, are nowhere near those type of figures. The burial sites can be seen from space in the Ukraine, but not a mention from it, because our loony lefties are saying we must fight for Ukraine's sovereignty, but we must renege on our own sovereignty here and must keep our borders open. The contradictions and the gaslighting is just off the hook. But the Ukrainian people are paying the ultimate price for the continuation of this chessboard maneuver that our defunct mid-level managers are trying to perpetuate. Because if the war continues, people are going to look at the economic devastation that we all felt. The fact that they're trying to leverage and borrow, make and create euro bonds on confiscated funds, although highly illegal. You can legislate for it, you can make it legal. You can try and make it lawful, but the Russians will come knocking and looking for it back. Ethnocide in action, 100%. Brother wars, Slavs fighting Slavs, and again another banker war and another democide. Yeah, it would fall under the category of a democide as well. We've experienced it and are still experiencing the ongoing democide here in the Republic. Democide is the intentional murder of its citizens by a government. Just to explain that one as well, a democide. But again, the new superpowers that the new lieutenant general is going to get will relinquish him of any need to look as he would have been covered under the triple lock to seek a third party's permission for us to put logistics or assets on the ground elsewhere outside of Ireland. It's part of the security blanket to maintain our neutrality. And again, the framing of what they're saying on mainstream is that, well, we can't expect others to step up and defend us. We must put our money towards defending ourselves. We only have to defend our fisheries. We only have to defend our forestries. That's what they're there. We can go across and do. Um, Again, I still agree with. I don't. In fact, I don't even agree with any sort of peacekeeping because if you know what blue hats are, blue hats of the UN Brigade are worse than any fucking barbarous crowd that has ever been sent abroad because they've been uh, responsible for more trafficking, more rapes, more murders than probably any of the invasion forces that they're supposed to be sent over there. The whole enterprise is a satanic creation because the blue hats or any of the blue hats or foreign blue hats that I ever encountered were selling fucking children for biscuits. That's all they are. If you know it deep down here, peacekeeping force is the inverted meaning of what they actually are. So I have no truck with the UN or anything like that, or us participating like that. And again, a nationalist government will remove all of that. We will bring ourselves more insular and more protectionist and look towards our own bit of housekeeping that we need to take up over here. Again, a little bit of projection, I understand. But like I said, the new general is being put in place. He is getting superannual powers. And I think that will just play out if any sort of pandemic is kicked any pandemic is put out over the Christmas period time or another situation. You can see with the super flu increasing over in the United Kingdom, talking about having to remask and trying to go through the whole processes again. Nothing about the RNA nasal vaccinations that went through the school population, hence the shedding process, and now why a whole raft of people over in the United Kingdom are struggling, as they say, with 3 week, 4 week, this new flu symptom that they can't seem to shake. But we're not going to talk on that. But I'm not going to go through. But I am going to go. I am going to read this interview by Kevin McFarlane from start to finish, just to inform us again. I'm touching on the main categories: immigration, Islam, but again, excess deaths, the vaccination, and all of that jazz. We can call it now and say for what it is. As more and more of this evidence is coming out, we can just wait to see. And again, the black box situation is the FDA is now starting to think or talk about putting a black box warning on the COVID shots. So we can see then where O'Neill and the rest of the RT posse stand when FDA itself, they'll try and say it's Trump's FDA, but the FDA now is putting a warning, a black box, which says there are indications or health indications in taking this. So it just reinforces our position throughout the whole period of the experiment. But I will read this from Kevin McKiernan, the dangers of the hidden DNA fragments in the COVID shots, because this is quantifiable evidence to all doctors and scientists and everything that these traces of SV40, the cancer-inducing SV40 strain that's been found and talked about from the length and breadth, and the nanolipid technology, nanotechnology that forms the hardened shell that allows it to breach the blood-brain barrier is also included in this as being a contaminant. Let me read the article and get through it for you. But like I said, just to arm ourselves with the information and the talk of now that we can now push back and say that they were never safe and effective, and we do now have a multidisciplinary and peer-reviewed papers coming out now to push back on that outright lie. This from Kevin McKiernan. Kevin McKiernan's presentation at the World Council for Health exposes the most serious revelations of the COVID era surrounding the mRNA injections. He presents clear evidence for these products were produced with reckless disregard for safety. His overview of a broad range of findings reveal how regulatory agencies and pharmaceutical manufacturers ignored fundamental medical principles, endangered human health, and concealed critical data. Everything that we have spoken about, and everything I think that that the channel was banned for medical misinformation, and probably the same reason now that we're getting ahead of it, that they can see that the channel was reinstated, exposing the genetic contamination. Throughout independent genomic sequencing, Kevin McKiernan and collaborating scientists, Kevin Parlin, if you're following the jihadist over on Rumble, the one of the scientists that carries out this and has carried out these uh, not these experiments, this what's the word I'm looking for? These experiments on this to bring this forward is Kevin Parlin. He's also streaming on Rumble. The jihad, I can't remember his full name. But anyway, such contaminates. I'll go back. These DNA fragments were not random. They contained bacterial plasmids, including sequences from SV40, a viral component historically associated with gene therapy. Such contamination violates international standards that limit residual DNA to 10 nanograms per dose. Even more concerning, the MRA products encapsulate genetic material with lipid nanoparticles, protecting it from degradation and allowing integration into human cells. Primarily, that lipid nanoparticle is an outer shell to protect the mRNA, which would have been decimated by the blood-brain barrier or other mechanisms triggered. And that was part of the process of mRNAs, that they couldn't breach that. They couldn't keep the mRNA intact long enough to have an effect on the DNA strands within the body. So this lipid nanoparticle effectively gave it a shield that would allow it to pierce into cells and allow it to breach the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain and infest the brain. The result is a direct path of foreign DNA fragments to interact with human DNA, a scenario regulators never evaluated and the manufacturer never disclosed. The fraud in the data. McKiernan's analysis revealed deliberate omissions in the plasmid maps submitted to the US Food and Drug Administration. Regions containing the SV promoter sequence were erased from regulatory review, concealing elements known to drive gene integration. When restored, the full sequences show that these components are functional. They can bind to critical DNA repair enzymes such as P53, activate hypermutation pathways, and disrupt cellular regulation. The presence of such genetic material fundamentally changes the risk profile of the injections. What was promoted as a temporary messenger RNA platform now appears to contain replication competent DNA capable of persistence and genomic interference. Very, very important that we drill down on the specific terminology, that this constitutes not only a quality control error, but a systematic violation of principles underpinning ethical science. The biological consequences, what will happen, and because of this contamination, peer-reviewed studies have confirmed that vaccine-derived genetic material can persist for weeks or months in tissues. They said it will only stay in a single location in the arm, and that it would disappear from the body within a matter of hours and weeks. That is all now being proven to be false. Um, Including lymph nodes, heart, and cerebral arteries, whether through integration or chronic activation. This persistence sustains spike protein expression and inflammation long after the injection. So, the persistent expression of spike protein is the clotting in another way, is that the body has been programmed because of the integration of this mRNA, as got back through, is persistently creating the spike protein, which was identified as the immune response that it was supposed to activate and be temporary. It is now being seen to be permanent and causing genetic inflammation, hence why people's immune systems are deteriorating. And because it is progressive, it's like a sponge effect. Once it's the drop of water, it is absorbing and will continue if not monitored and medicated against. Whether through integration or chronic activation, this persistence sustains spike metal expression and inflammation long after the injection. McKiernan explains that each fragment of DNA has free molecular ends capable of ligation, the process by which DNA joins with other strands. Fragmentation, therefore, increases the number of potential integration sites. The smaller the fragment, the greater the copy number, and the higher the likelihood of genetic disruption. So once the body receives this instruction, primarily it used to be from the DNA, but when the mRNA is inserted, this perpetual repeat of the instruction keeps driving it forward. And as it's saying here, it goes into other uh, cells that create it, and they are contaminated and are producing and reproducing the spike protein expression. The cellular outcome align with patterns observed clinically: chronic immune activation, mitochondrial stress, oncogenic signaling cancers. McKernan's findings thus provide a molecular explanation for the rise in autoimmune disorders, sudden cancers, and prolonged inflammatory syndromes reported since the mass rollout. Cellular chain reactions. Beyond the risk of genetic integration, McKernan warns of another mechanism of harm: systolic DNA activation. When fragments of foreign DNA enter the cell but remain outside the nucleus, the body detects them as a viral threat. This activates the C-gas sting pathway, an emergency signaling system that triggers inflammation and interferon release. In short bursts, this process helps defend against infection, but when it becomes chronic, i.e., it's being activated and turned on, repeatedly being turned on because it's misdiagnosing what it sees as a viral infection and it keeps on bombarding the cell. It can drive continuous immune activation and damage to healthy tissues. Persistent stimulation of this pathway has been linked to autoimmune disease, mitochondrial dysfunction, and tumor formation in experimental models. The implications beyond extend beyond contamination. They expose a deeper ethical collapse within the institutions entrusted with public health. Regulators accepted redacted data, dismissed independent replication, and refused to release analytical methods to outside experts. Such conduct transforms what should have been scientific inquiry into bureaucratic complicity. Genetic contamination in the COVID injections cannot be dismissed or buried. It demands immediate investigation, retraction of falsified submissions, and a moratorium on further mRNA based products. So, with that kind of arming and with these peer reviews coming out now, would seem incumbent now that if the likes of Luke O'Neill or any of um, the head of the medicines over here should be asked about these new reviews coming out, and with as I said, the FDA. Just to follow it up here with the FDA now talking about it tends to put its most serious warning on the COVID vaccines. And now, some of the other articles that I was trying to put through, they're all CNN and they're all, again, the article spews the blame at the Trump administration that this is the Trump's FDA. That not that that should make a difference, but what they're putting on is what's termed as the black box. Quick one from this one here: the U.S. Food and Drug Administration intends to put a quote black box warning on COVID-19 vaccines. CNN reported on Friday, citing two people familiar with the agency's plans. The warning is the most serious type and highlights major risks such as side effects, adverse reactions, and restrictions. Keeping up with the latest medical breakthroughs, the plan to include the warning for COVID shots is being orchestrated by Vinay Prasad, the FDA's chief medical and scientific officer and director of the agency's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, according to the report. Unless the FDA announces it, any claim about what it will do is pure speculation. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services spokesman Andrew Nixon said about the plans to include the warning. Following the CNN report, vaccine makers Moderna pointed to the statement it issued in September about the safety of its COVID shot. Pfizer also reiterated a statement about that its vaccine continues to demonstrate a favorable safety and efficiency profile supported by extensive real-world evidence. That's not what the previous article stated, not what their peer reviewed are showing about contamination. Last month, Prasad told staffers in a memo that COVID shots probably contributed to the deaths of at least 10 children who died of heart inflammation. The FDA is investigating deaths potentially related to COVID-19 vaccines across multiple age groups as part of a safety review, a HHS spokesman said on Tuesday. FDA Commissioner Mary Macari also previously said that the agency was looking at such deaths in young people. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a longtime vaccine skeptic, has sharply changed government policy on COVID vaccines, limiting access to people aged 65 and above, as well as those with underlying conditions. The plan to add the warning has not been finalised and may still change, CNN reported. It was not immediately clear whether the plans for the warnings expected to be unveiled by the end of the year would be applied only to mRNA vaccines or to all COVID vaccines if they would apply to all age groups, the report added. Vaccines from Pfizer and partner BioNTech and Moderna use messenger RNA technology, while Novak's shot is more traditional protein-based one. So again, it's kind of it's all changing. It's all slowly emerging and coming out, but they won't talk about it on the mainstream. They won't bring it up until it's actually officiated. If that box warning is indeed put on, then that would certainly put the cat among the pigeons. Would you not think, live chat? What say you? Green says, I was taking it seriously for the first few weeks, then so it was all a hoax, and that was me, don't I? Yeah, yeah, everybody talking about that. Dave was right. Yeah, Dave was on point as well. Nice of Philip to mention himself and David in his stream as well. Appreciate that. Most sources have said they would never take it. Well, going on even on our own statistics here, the highest refusal rate is amongst care workers and nurses. They're not going to take up yeah, going to take up any of the new vaccines. So if they try, which the UK is trying to do, push it back down. We now have peer-reviewed articles to say about this SV40 in particular because um, that is linked with the with cancer and the speed cancers as well, that contamination. But now it's coming out, as we said, that this continuous expression of spike protein, that is what's damaging the immune systems, and that is what's producing the clots as well as the constant chronic expression of the spike protein. And what was the spike protein derived from? HIV. HIV. Even the BBC admitted to that one there. Fact check me on that one. Okay, that's not too bad. We're coming up on 53. Got through a couple of the articles there. I want to touch in with any of your talking points there, live chat. We're primarily talking on live chat there. Let me see, Twitch. We got a few attendees over on Twitch. Have you? Oh no! Don't do it. I might have to coming off. I'm all right. I'm all right. I'll go over there. I was just updating. Good to see you. Thanks for dropping a comment over there on Twitch. And who we got here? That's just an automated response and kick. We will persevere. So tour over on Rumble. Sheem Straight and X. Appreciate that, Mons Desk. Thank you for you. Just found out and follow you on X. Thanks for that, Mons Disc. Thank you for the follow. And to you, Jordan Brew. Live chat. I'm going to keep it brief. I said we're coming up onto the end of the year. It goes by really quickly. That's why I'm going to try and bring it back to an 8 o'clock start there as well. And I don't want to be just popping out and just popping out articles and just saying this every couple of weeks. I kind of want to make it a kind of a live chat interaction and maybe just kind of review what's on my feed or what's on your feed. Pick up on some of your talking points on what you'd like to see and what you'd like to talk about. I'm going to go through it just here for the last few minutes on my Twitter feed to see if it is see what's dropping lately, see if there's anything we could pick up on. I just want to increase the size there just to help you read through it there as well. I'll go from a fresh install about who I'm following there. Cliff is anti-Semite. Talking about the Atlas AI, I would presume. Remember that time MSM review admitted that the elections are rigged and fake? That's kind of more of an American thing. HJB News back over in the UK. This is one of the videos British Home Secretary Shabab Mahmood deleted from her website. She's being touted as the next Prime Minister to replace Herr Starmer. And they're talking about Trump there as well. Well, they've got Emil Elliott. Trump is around himself with like-minded, horrible, horrible people. So the left is having a meltdown over there as well. It's still going to be I'd say, Bondi Beach. Oh, what we got here? Breaking just out from Hungary base. Marie Le Pen rises against Macron's France. Every day, hundreds have come to France. Mass migration is not an opportunity. It is a tragedy for France. She says that well. Renat Camus' book also frames that. Let me dig it out there. Oh, let me dig that out for you there. I wanted to show you the cover of that book as well. I'm still getting through it myself, but it's a collection of agencies. But that is how we should see ourselves as enemies of the disaster. It is a great disaster that has befallen Europe, and we must be enemies of this disaster, as he frames it. Now, I'm not in agreement with all of him, but on an academic scale, as a philosopher and as a thinking, to identify it and how we must push back. He talks about, as I said on millennials thing, that it's the alphas and the zoomers, the zoomers particularly, and the alphas that will be the ascendancy into the power. They are livid, but not only Gen X or the millennials, they are livid with the generation beforehand because they have seen their future stolen, that they have to go further afield elsewhere rather than try and remaining here. But we must see ourselves as enemies of the disaster. And that's how you should frame it as well. And it is a great disaster that has befallen. But again, it's not unrecoverable. Quick one here, because I just see Mick O'Keefe at the bottom of this here as well. The Irish State broadcaster once tried to convince the nation that Irish history is riddled with slavery and that we should all hate ourselves. They paid a Marxist who wears a plastic bag in his head produce this nonsense. I didn't go crazy saying it, but I don't even know if you guys can hear anything at all. I'm listening to that on my headphones there, but is there anything coming through for you guys at all? I press pause there as well. You know, that's what do they call themselves? Muppets with the plastic head. There was a little bit of play in there. Just let me know there in live chat if you could hear anything in the background. I won't play through because I know it's wasting our time. I'm using you for a sound check as well. What have we got here? Still can't believe this picture isn't set a real woman. Yeah, the degradation of everything. What else have we got here for you? The recommended. Eurofeds will kick the fire. Oh, here, these are these bots here. Here's this one here popping up. 5x5, no sound GTA. Thanks for that, Colette. You can hear my sound, Shawnee Mike, but you weren't hearing the sound from the video playback. I've done everything that I can see, but again, I think I'll resolve that when I get back to OBS at the old building. That's true, sheepdog. This again, I can only consider these bots because Eurofeds will kick the far right out of Europe. Europe is for actual patriots, not Russian bootlickers like the AFD, Orban, Pico, RN. Like these are actual AI bots. European, they're trying to create this actual European patriots uh, for real, you know. And it's whoever's paying it out. It's just off the hook, but it's all over my X feed as well. Killian, past 48 has been absolutely wild. Killian just saying that the last 48 hours have been absolutely wild. What else have I got here? Graham Lineman has gone around there smashing around the transgender ideology, but he's changing his position here. Still nothing about the Bondi Beach from the man who helped turn Ireland into an anti-Semitic shithole, Leo Varadkar. And again, you see them all talk about the Muslim saved us from Muslims. So it took one Muslim to save us from the other two Muslims. It's a complete contrivance over there. I don't want to break into it too much because again, it's too early after the incident as well. But there's so many indications, like statistical anomalies. Who would have known that that one person who was caught up in the October 7th was also caught up over on the Bondi Beach? Statistically impossible, but there you go. There you go. I'm not going to go in too deep because it just freaks out too many heads, but there are far too many questions. Another distraction, you might say, from what else were they trying to pop out? Maybe the release of the FDA's black box. But we do know who Five Eyes are because that's who the general and Irish intelligence, oxymoron, Irish intelligence, trying to say that we need to increase our military spending now and get our intelligence up to date to lend assistance. We can't expect everybody else to pay. But Five Eyes, as you remember, United States, New Zealand, Australia, United Kingdom, United States, number one, New Zealand, Australia, United Kingdom, France. I think it's France. Five Eyes. They're all the intelligence sharing that they've done, and they were primarily responsible for the global rollout of the propaganda, along with the 77 Brigade, on pushing and blackballing dissenters, or shutting down dissenters and shutting down and censoring. It was the sharing of information, all of their information. Don't think there's anything else to touch on. Obviously, Satirical, who brought it up, it was the first to point out to me about the promotion of the general there. Anyone call? I'll just read out one of Satirical's posts. Give Mike Connell there a follow if you're not doing so already. Satsoul83 over on Twitter if any of you follow him. Big Mike, I'm hoping to have in as one of the first guests in the new year. So keep an eye out and keep following him on his tags. Anyone who calls himself a communist Republican should be ridiculed into utter oblivion before, while, and after being placed into a mental institute for his unique retardation. It's making a comeback. We're making that word come back again. Yeah, communist again, communist Republican under oxymoron. Republicanism is about liberty, fraternity, and equality. Uh, but again, antithetical to everything about communism. Okay, folks, I'm going to wrap it up there. Going to keep it short and brief. Thank you for joining me again on this Monday. Thank you for putting up with the nonsense. Just wanted to bring one or two points to you to talk about. And again, you can share that information with people if you're of a mind in conversation that the safe and effective is no longer safe and effective, and we've got the sauce on it. Quick roll call if you fancy, and I'll let you go, and I'll see you again next week. Or as I say, coming up as Friday will be the last working day for me. The following weeks, then for the rest period, I do intend to stream throughout the day, and it will not be like this. It will just be a hangout. I intend to do it for a couple of hours just to see how it works out and kind of work on the process of fixing up the OBS and try to get the stream a little bit more lubricated. Big thank you to you, Colin, for that. Shawnee Max, exactly, Greenfest. Let's have a quick roll call, your age and your location, and I'll let you go there if you're of a mind. Please do consider giving us a like and a follow on any of the platforms that you're watching this on, and maybe share out. I'm trying to engage a Fiverr video editor to take some of the content out of the streams so I can post them up on TikTok or up on the YouTube shorts as well. So if you know of anybody over here that would be interested, I'm trying to source out on the international market for a video editor to come in and take some clips out of the streams so we can get that message out. And the roll call begins. Fanula Olmuraku is joining us from Clondalkin. 74, she says. We have the viewer audience. Who was Big Fran was in there a couple of weeks back at 84. Fucking great ages. Delighted to have you on board. Thanking you. Nice run on Millennial. Appreciate that, Armchair. Oh, the Armchair Limerick Nationalist also joining. I do appreciate it. We are in. Better put my tie on for next week with the Armchair in the house. Appreciate that, Armchair. Nova Scotia 61 from Blinky. Thank you very much for that. Shawnee Mack is joining us from Kilkenny. Fanula is getting younger. She's not going to reveal the age. Condé on Claire. That must be another part of it. Lily Gazoo is joining us from Seattle. Kilay, just like the now famous song. Thanks for that, Sheepdog. Who else have we got there? Barbarossa, Rapon Gap, Georgia, USA. Thank you for that, Barbara. Appreciate the support. And we'll let it go. We'll wrap it up there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your support. Oh, we've got it. Is that somewhere in Wales, is it? I am from the valleys. Armchair Limerick Nationalist. Trying to give me the phonetic spelling of that, Armchair, and I might be able to give you the pronunciation at 118. Thanks for that. And Stargirl D joining us from Comedy D, just there right at the end. And Claire from Green Fay. Right, that's it. God bless you. God bless yours. See you again next Monday. Sorry for the overspill, but we'll try and keep it to an hour. And I'll see you next weekend, or see you next Monday, and then going into the Christmas period. God bless you. God bless yours. Mind yourself. Us, everybody.